Dear friends, our Palm Sunday liturgy presents us with two gospel readings. The first was proclaimed during our special entrance ritual at the start of today's liturgy. The second, as we just heard, is the narrative of Matthew's Passion that serves as our gospel proclamation on this Palm Sunday. The setting for both Gospels is Jerusalem at Passover time. Jews from Galilee and Judea and all across the Roman world were flooding into Jerusalem for the first of the three pilgrimage feasts. There was an air of excitement as a pilgrim from Galilee enters the city with a small entourage. Some people in the crowd greeted him with cries of Hosanna. Others asked for the reason for all the excitement. Those who knew identified the man entering the city on a donkey as Jesus the prophet from Nazareth in Galilee. A few days later, another crowd gathered to witness the trial of that same man, who was accused of sedition by claiming to be the King of the Jews. And the cries that we heard, "Crucify him," replaced the hosannas from earlier in the week. Was the charge against Jesus justified? Did Jesus or his followers claim that he was to be the King of the Jews? The story of Jesus' entry into Jerusalem implies as much. Pilate's questioning and Jesus' refusal to answer suggests that there may have been some basis for that accusation. The taunts by the Roman soldiers and by those being executed along with him and by those witnessing the crucifixion, they mocked any supposed royal status for Jesus. Finally, the charge against Jesus that Pilate had written on the tablet and attached to the cross was an unintended yet an accurate testimony to the nature of Jesus' kingship. In the stark contrast to the welcome that Jesus had received on his entry into Jerusalem is now also, we heard in the reading of the second gospel, about the abandonment voiced by Jesus as he was dying. "My God, why have you forsaken me?" As terrible as the torture Jesus endured in his final hours, the feeling of abandonment was the most powerful of all. It epitomizes the core meaning of the cross and the terrible power of sin. Throughout his ministry, Jesus sought out the sinners, socialized with them, and was accused of being one of them. The cross carries the significance of Jesus' embrace and identification with sinners to the extreme, perhaps. The readings from the prophet Isaiah and the Philippians reflect on Jesus' embrace of his cross. When Jesus began his journey from Galilee to Jerusalem, Jesus warned his disciples about what awaited him there. It is Jesus' cry of abandonment by God that provided the significance of his suffering and death. Sin is a turning away from God, a turning away that leaves us alone. The cross is both a sign of the power of sin to keep us apart from God, and at the same time, a sign of God's determination, because Jesus' suffering and death is and was for our sake meant to lead us back. My friends, though Jesus felt the absence of God as he was dying on the cross, we know that God was there with Jesus. God had not abandoned or forsaken Jesus. How often perhaps have we ourselves felt that God has abandoned us. Our faith tells us that despite our feelings, God never abandons us. God is never closer to us than when we feel that God is far away. My friends, during this sacred Triduum, we will again remember the events of Jesus' last days, and we are invited to watch him, to learn from him what it means to have faith. This is the time to watch and pray and let Jesus lead us, knowing, my friends, that he does walk with us.